Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are making Doro Wat. I am probably horribly mispronouncing that. Readjust this camera a little bit. Alright, so Doro Wat. It's an Ethiopian style spicy chicken, just as the New York Times recipe in front of you reads. So it's pretty popular in Ethiopia, and I had a friend that recommended it to me, so therefore we're going to be making it. It's a fairly straightforward recipe from what I have been able to tell thus far. And I'm going to get started by just preheating the oven to 350 degrees. And so we're going to let that preheat for a moment or two. I'm going to go ahead and grab a baking dish, or a baking sheet with a... Yes, you're the friend! Introducing new things to me so that I can enjoy them. I'm a big fan of that. So I'm going to pull out my baking sheet, and I'm going to pull out the rack. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting the chicken thighs on here. So there's a step in here that says that you're supposed to discard the juices after 20 minutes. And frankly, I'm a little bit lazy, and I don't really want to do that. So therefore, we're going to be putting it on the rack so all the juices can just kind of drain away, and we don't have to worry about leaving them in the juices. I read the comments on the recipe. Other people said that they've tried this and it worked. What do I really know apart from that? Very little. Alright. So I've got my frozen chicken thighs here, and ideally you would not be using frozen chicken thighs, but I am, because it's just kind of what I have on hand during this pandemic. Pull that last one out. I can already tell that we're going to have to pull these out again pretty shortly because a couple of them are stuck to, well, maybe I can just unbreak them. And I'm probably using too few. I'm only using 5 instead of the 8 to 10 that it recommends, but I'm also not cooking for 4 to 6 people. And frankly, I don't know that I could eat 6 to 10 of these chicken breasts, no matter how delicious they may be. We'll see how smart it is. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some lemon juice, and we'll probably be reapplying some of this in a little bit when I go back in and after this is unfrozen. Actually, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put this in the oven to thaw a little bit and get it up to temperature so that we're not starting from 0. And then I'll pull it out in a little bit. We'll give it the proper rub down with the vinegar and the lemon juice that it recommends. And then we'll put it back in again. Should be fine. Okay. So, we have the chicken thighs in the oven. Let's see, next up, I skimmed over this. I feel like I forgot something. Oh, that's what I forgot. I've got to grab my food processor, and we're going to be putting in the onions, the ginger, and the garlic. Okay. Well, let's get those onions, ginger, and garlic ready first, and then I'll pull out the food processor and we can process the food. So for this, I've got my ginger. I've got actually quite a lot of ginger there. I'm obviously not going to be using all of that, but it is fresh ginger. A couple onions. Let me grab a couple more. I swear, I go through bags of onions so fast. Actually, it says 4 to 5 large onions. These are probably medium onions, but still, I'm probably only going to need about 4 of them. So that will be 4 medium to large onions. And I actually have garlic over here already because I just always keep garlic over here. Not actually completely true, but largely true. We're going to just peel up, or peel this. Just roughly. We're going to get the first layer of peel off first, and then we'll move on with the rest of the prep. It's always the prep that takes the most amount of time, whenever you're cooking. And again, I've been asked, why I don't prep stuff ahead of time, because that would undoubtedly, that looks a little, we might have to replace this onion. I'll see what it looks like after I take the layer off, because it's possible that it's all just superficial. But I've been asked why I don't do prep ahead of time, and my answer to that is twofold. Firstly, I'm kind of lazy, and that's more planning than I put into things. But secondly, I do all of this, live on the stream so that other people can kind of see what goes into it. I'm not the fastest at prepping stuff, but I'm also not the slowest. I'm sort of probably a happy medium average. I don't know if I'm really liking how that layer looks. We might have to take off another layer. I don't know that I've ever seen it with that kind of almost pre-caramelized look. And then sometimes, I watch a show and I'm like, well, wait, how did they get from point A to point B? And so the point of my doing it this way is that you can see how it goes from point A to point B. So I'm thinking we can probably use 3/4 of this onion, but I'm going to take off this bit here because that scar looks like it's pretty deep and gnarly. And of course, we'll give everything a wash before we actually start cutting into it, because we don't want to carry any surface contaminants down to the lower levels. So hopefully by watching this you can, I know that they're a little bit long sometimes, but hopefully you can still kind of see how the entire process is carried out and how I get from point A to point B. That's my philosophy behind it. Alright, that one looking pretty good. This one I think is done. Yeah, I don't think that one's going to be any good. Let me check. I don't like how that's peeling apart up there at the top. Yeah, it's kind of dried out here. I'm thinking that one's past its prime. Gotta admit, I go through onions fast enough. I never thought that that would be an issue. I know that I was talking a lot about imperfect foods the other day and how great their stuff is. Before anyone wonders, this stuff is not from Imperfect Foods. It is just this stuff straight out of my grocery store. So, honestly, I think that the stuff from Imperfect Foods was in better condition than some of this stuff. And it's not like this stuff's been sitting on my shelves. I got these onions less than a week ago. I just have a standing bag of onions that come in. Yep, onions and garlic. Can't get enough of them. So let's grab another onion. think that one looks okay. So, much better. Yeah, this one's still got some of the green up at the top, so it's still fresher. So I don't know, maybe just maybe an older one snuck into a batch or something. Not really sure what was going on there. But this one's looking pretty good. I don't actually know when onions are harvested. I don't know if we're in the main harvest period or if that was earlier in the year or if that really matters, because I know they ship them all around the world and onions keep pretty well. Right, I'm gonna rinse these off, which is all off camera because I'm trying to engage everyone's, all of your senses. I engage your sight by showing you things. I engage your sense of scent by describing aromas as best as I can. And I engage your auditory centers by washing stuff and doing things off camera so that you can't actually see them. It forces you to use your imagination. That's part of the charm and appeal or something. I don't know. This is totally something that I've thought up as a plan and not just a justification for why I don't have a camera pointed at my sink. Of course. Alright, I'm going to quickly scrape that off. Yes, just imagine the washing. The true washing is happening, elsewhere. Actually, what it really is I just got a sound effect, and it makes it sound like I'm actually washing things. I never wash anything. Alright, so I'm trying to decide. It says that the head of garlic is peeled. They talk about peeling the individual cloves or just pull all the paper off. I'm thinking I'll take the, whatever the husk is on these off as well. But it's not very clear. Or it's probably perfectly clear to the person that wrote it, but I can't read their mind. Sadly, mind reading at a distance is not one of my superpowers. Something I should probably learn to do, though. So we're going to just go ahead and get the paper off of these best as I can. Grab this thing. Get the paper off my damp hands because it sticks. Avant-garde cooking show. I like that. Nothing's ever on the camera, just always in your imagination. So this is a nice fast way for those who don't already know to peel garlic. You just get the garlic clove, smack it with the flat of the knife, and the husk and everything comes out. And I mean, come on, how often do you need to use unsmashed garlic cloves? I mean, basically never. So it's already done part of the job for you right there. But I mean, it's just so easy. It just comes straight off. It's like no effort. Whereas doing it, without smashing it first. I mean, go back and look at some of my older videos, and probably about 15 minutes into most of them, there I am trying to just manually peel garlic, which you can do, but I found a faster way, which everyone else already knew about, but that's okay, because if you don't know something, you just now learn it. You're just one of today's lucky 10,000. Because on average, if everyone knows something by a certain age, then on average 10,000 people learn about that each day. So if you learn something new that supposedly everyone knows, it just means you're one of the lucky 10,000 and you get to learn about it that day. And for those who aren't getting my reference, and I think that probably most of the people on the stream are, because I think I know most of the people on the stream, and most of you like XKCD quite a lot, but it's a Randall Munroe reference from XKCD, which is basically the best webcomic ever made. Certainly the nerdiest. That has popular appeal. There's a few other nerdier ones, but you don't hear about them very often because they have a much smaller audience. Not that that's a bad thing or anything, just kind of how it is. Alright, so we've got our garlic, we've got our onions, which are just barely on camera. And now we've got our garlic here, and we only need to have, let's see, a 1-inch piece peeled and grated. You know, I don't know that I have ever actually peeled garlic before. These together is probably about a 1-inch piece. I'm okay if there's a little bit of extra garlic. Or ginger. Not garlic, ginger. Mixing up what I'm talking about. So I would imagine you just kind of peel it like this, which is probably a horrible idea because I've got a feeling it probably gets underneath your fingers. I don't think I'm supposed to just use it. Rinse off my knife here. Just be careful and use a paring knife. Alright, well, anything a paring knife can do, a chef's knife can do better, right? Because it's bigger. That's how that works. But in this case, a paring knife is probably the correct tool for the job. We've now entered the thrilling part of the episode where everyone nervously watches me handle a knife and wonders if I actually know what I'm doing enough to prevent myself from actually cutting off my own fingers. Honestly, some days it's kind of 50-50. You know, ooh, that smells really good. That fresh ginger smell. Anyway, yeah, some days, it's kind of 50-50. I could slip at any moment. I feel like today's probably one of my better coordination days, though. I'm saying that now so that if I do slip and hurt myself seriously, I can be like, oh, well, I shouldn't have tempted Murphy. But if I'm okay at the end of it, I could be like, hey, look, see? I properly predicted it. I foretold the future. I think that's how all that works. Pretty sure. Yes, this is way easier than trying to peel it off with fingernails or anything else. Hey, so far so good. Just about one piece down. Alright, one piece to go. I have a prediction that peeling ginger is going to be the next big thing on the internet. People are going to just make endless hours of videos of themselves peeling ginger. So this isn't slow entertainment. This is getting ahead of the next trend. Next big thing. We just need to give it a hashtag of some kind. And then it'll start trending and people will start peeling ginger for hours. And people will throw money at their screens to watch it. Pretty sure that's how that happens. It's all in the hashtag. Alright. This one should be just about done. There we go. Alright, so we've got our garlic, we've got our ginger, and we've got our onions, which I will still... Hashtag ginger peel challenge. There we go. Yeah, more knife skills would be great. I'm okay. I can do some things. I don't know that I can do a ton of things. I can do enough to get me into trouble, which is really the best way to be. Because then you're always surprising people. If you know enough to get you in trouble, 50% of the people think you're an expert. And then the other 50% are like, man, that guy knows nothing. And if you're an expert and you get something wrong, you surprise everyone. So the 50% of people that think that you're an expert, they're surprised if anything ever goes wrong. And then for the other 50% of people that look at you and they're like, oh my god, he has no idea what he's doing at all. Like, they're surprised if you get it right. So being a talented amateur or semi-talented, my actual level of talent is remains to be determined, shall we say. But I surprise everyone all of the time. Alright, we are going to go ahead and I'm going to swap this over to the stove. Because I'm going to pull out chicken and we're going to take a look at it. Looks like it's thawing pretty nicely. It's starting to look pretty good. It's still kind of frozen here. Let's see if I can get these apart. Whoops. Okay, so yeah, I could get them apart. That's nice. I didn't even hurt myself in the process, which is even nicer. Okay, so now what we're going to do... Part-time expert is the fantastic name for a band. I really like that. We're going to take juice of a lemon and a tablespoon of white vinegar. Juice of a lemon. Well, I don't have a lemon. I do have something called real lemon, which is supposedly 100% lemon juice, and which is a pretty solid substitute, to be perfectly honest. I use it quite a lot because I don't always have lemons on hand, and it's a heck of a lot easier just to keep a lot of this stuff around. I'm just going to pour, I don't know, that's like probably half a lemon. Alright, I'm going to say that amount there, which is probably not showing up on camera at all, but that amount there is the juice of a lemon, or so, approximately. Plus or minus. Then I'm going to find my white vinegar, which is right here. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon, approximately. We're brushing this on the chicken. I don't think that it really matters too much how precise I am. Alright, put that away. And then I just brush it on. Rubbed chicken with lemon juice and vinegar. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm thinking that this calls for the pastry brush. Which is probably a horrible idea because using a pastry brush on raw chicken is probably not good, but it's okay. I'll just get it really hot later and that'll take care of any problems with salmonella or contamination or anything like that. Right? Right. So we're just going to grab a healthy amount of this concoction. Which is going to splash everywhere, but that's fine because that's kind of what we wanted to do anyway. We're just going to get that all over this chicken. And then we'll flip all of this over so we can get the other side. Yeah, it's silicone, that's why I'm not too concerned. I mean, worst comes to worst, I'll just throw it in my Instant Pot for a few minutes. It's got a sterilized setting. Which, by the way, when I found out that that it had a sterilized setting, like that was a fun day. I didn't do anything with that knowledge. I didn't actually run anything in it. I had a. It was a lot of fun to think about all the things that I could sterilize. It's like one of those things. Like if I had an autoclave. I don't know, which I think is essentially what the Instant Pot's doing with its sterilization. I don't know what I would do with an autoclave. Like there's not a whole lot of things I need to sterilize to that degree. But like there's a lot of things you can think about doing. You can sterilize all sorts of stuff. All right, so that should be good. And we're gonna, that's still too hot to be able to handle, so I'm gonna toss this back into the oven. All right, and that is gonna be gone for, I don't know, probably another 20 minutes. Ish. It's already been in there for a little bit, so, but it was still partially frozen in a couple spots. We'll just say about 20 minutes. All right, so back to the cutting board, where we were about to do all sorts of things with my food processor. Put the onions, ginger, garlic in a food processor. Oh, I have to quarter the onions first, don't I? I can do that. We're going to trim off this little bit down here. Yeah, that looks fine. These onions smell fantastic. Very much like, I would say these onions smell a heck of a lot like onions. Just fresh onions. Which is the best onion of all. Except for caramelized onions, which is slightly better. But alas, we are not making caramelized onions today. We are making something else. I don't actually know exactly what this bit is. Just going down the directions. I'll make caramelized onions some other time. I've been talking about making that basics episode. Just like the things that help make cooking more accessible, I guess. So maybe I should do caramelized onions as part of that? I don't know. You guys tell me. I don't actually know what to really put into something like that. I just feel like it's probably a good idea because I've got a lot of people who've asked me questions about how to do stuff, and it would be nice to be able to just say, look, I made a video about it. Alright, so what we are going to do is we are going to move my trusty mixer, or well, not really we, it's me. What I am going to do is move my trusty mixer out of the way. And this thing is heavy. Alright, mixer is out of the way. So I'm going to grab my food processor. See, if I'd been smart and read all of the recipe before doing all of this, I would have had this ready in advance, and then you would have never known that you have to read the recipe first. So this is one of those common missteps. It's easy to run into when you're cooking. If you don't read the recipe fully, you don't realize that you have to get specific items ready and out of your cabinet. Let's adjust this a little bit. It's the power cord that's in the way. See my very messy baking shelf. But honestly, if your baking shelf isn't messy, are you really doing it right? I posit that the answer is no. There we go. Alright, so we're going to need to get the steel blade. Yes, steel blade. And if you can hear all the beeping behind me, that's my rice cooker telling me that it is done. It sings me a little bit of song. Alright. Actually, let me try adjusting this a little bit more. Okay, that looks like it would probably work out a little bit better, and that I'm not going to be constantly running into it. So, the recipe says to just finely chop them until almost ground, leaving a bit of texture. I think I'm going to get started with putting some of the onions in here. I'll feed in the rest through the top. Alright, this is probably going to get a little bit noisy. So first off, that's a fantastic way to make diced onions. I'm going to have to remember that. Second off, let's go ahead and just, I'm going to keep this on and keep dropping stuff in. And that was the ginger and the garlic as well. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up and pulse this a little bit. That's looking like it is almost ground, leaving a bit of texture. I think that looks about right to me. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, alright, that looks pretty good to me. So, let's see here. Next up, we're going to be heating oil in a deep skillet over medium heat, adding the onion mixture and simmering until the onions have turned golden. That sounds pretty good to me. I like it when my onions turn golden. It's delicious in so many different ways, mostly in terms of their actual flavor. but that's a way. So I'm going to come over here, take the lid off. We're going to be doing this on the rear panel, or the, so that I've got enough room. I'm going to move these knives out of my way, which I moved out of my way earlier, and now they're back in my way again. And we're just going to take, it says olive oil. Alright. Well, that's good, because olive oil is delicious. Pop that up to medium heat. Grab the olive oil. It says it wants to have 1/3 of a cup. So that's a pretty decent amount of olive oil, which is probably somewhere in the vicinity of that. Maybe a little bit more. I think that might be a 1/4 cup. Alright, that's probably about 1/3 of a cup. Should probably get more olive oil. Alright, we're heating this up. We're going to wait for it to get a little bit warm, and then I'm going to grab the onion mixture. Which I'm pulling off the food processor right now, and it smells incredible. Like, seriously amazing. We're going to go ahead and just start putting this in. Seriously, that smells awesome. Just gonna make sure I've gotten everything I can. I feel like with the oil and then all of this onion, we're almost, I mean, we're not quite getting up to frying, I don't think, but something vaguely akin to that. Yeah, so the least process, so the more you process it, the more it loses its flavor, and the better it is for just like cooking. So this stuff is probably actually, this is supposed to be, I think this is supposed to be first press stuff. So it's probably not the greatest for cooking, but it will taste pretty amazing, which is why I went for that one. I actually went to an olive oil like producer recently, or last year, and they were talking about all of the different types of olive oil and the ways to do it, and it was really interesting. It was pretty fascinating. The place I went to, they sold very it was the Il Forello olive oil company in Fairfield, California. They sold olive oil in well, this is one of their olive oil things, and all sorts of different types. And I looked into getting some more because I quite enjoy their oil, but the shipping prices are kind of expensive. So cheaper than going back out there, but paying $20 for a bottle of oil and then an additional, it was either 10 or 15, just started to, and it was per bottle. It wasn't like, I could buy multiple bottles and have them all shipped to me, for one flat fee. It was like $10 to $15 per bottle, and I was That was a little bit expensive for my taste because I was going to get a couple of different bottles, but I couldn't really justify spending $100 on 3 bottles of olive oil. It's very good though. I very much I very like it, but I use it sparingly. Which, incidentally, you're also supposed to use it pretty fast. You're not supposed to let the olive oil sit out opened because it starts to spoil over time and it loses flavor. So it's really best in terms of flavor in the first week or 2 weeks, I think, after you open it. I mean, it still tastes fine now, but the flavors become less intense over time. So, given that I've had this bottle open for a little while, I really ought to replace it. Yeah, I think it's more to do with the way that they package their bottles more than than it specifically being from California. But delicious, delicious oil. We went on a tour of the olive groves. Other people go on like winery tours. We went on an olive oil tour. Apparently, a lot of the wineries actually also make olive oil, or they have a bunch of olives as well, just because it kind of goes with the whole ambiance that they're creating. So a bunch of the oils that this place sold were actually from wineries in the area, which is kind of cool. This is smelling so good. Just moving it around a little bit to kind of keep it from, I don't want it to burn or anything else. I think this is supposed to be a fairly slow process. It does say this it says I'm supposed to be simmering it. Okay, well maybe I should increase the temperature then. And then, so what we're going to do is, while I kind of wait for that to come up in temperature a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and grab another little ramekin. I'm going to mix up my spices that are going to be going into this. So we're going to start off with, let's see here, a tablespoon of the chili powder. So I'm using cayenne pepper for that, because cayenne pepper is pretty awesome. And it has specific measurements for all of this, but honestly, I just kind of guess at this point. Gotten decent at that. So that's about a tablespoon, which is what we wanted. Got the paprika, so we're going to be doing about a tablespoon of that. Right about there. And let's see, then it says the ginger. Yep, ginger, which I thought I grabbed. Oh, no. Alright, ginger. We're going to be using another half teaspoon of that. So not very much at all. About to there. That smells pretty good too. I really love how much spices smell good. Like, I know that's why we use them, but it's still pretty awesome to be cooking with them and just, be like, oh man, this coriander smells amazing. Or something like that. We're going to use about a half teaspoon of coriander. If I can get the little flap open. It does not want to open. Well, we'll just shake it a little bit and hope that it will eventually. Okay, I'm too impatient. We're gonna fix that flap. There we go. And now there we go. That's about a half teaspoon. Give this another stir as it starts to come up to simmering temperature. Let's see here. Then we have the cardamom, and we're going to be doing about a teaspoon of that. About to there. Smells good. Then it says dried thyme. I don't really have any dried thyme. Right? Well, do I? I don't think I do. I've got fennel seeds. I don't think I've got thyme. Because I started growing thyme. I think I've used up all of my my stores of the dried stuff. So, rather than using the dried stuff, I'm just going to grab some of the live stuff. Kind of just cut that up into it. I think that that will be just fine. It'll simmer in there. I might need a little bit more. Well, no, it said only a quarter teaspoon, and I put in more like probably a little over that, so we should be fine. And it's the fresh stuff, so it's even more potent. That should be okay. Alright, and then fenugreek, which I had never tried before, and is actually sort of difficult to find if in the middle of a pandemic, because you can't go out to a bunch of other places, you know, a bunch of international food stores. So I ended up going to Penzeys for that, and wow, that smells delicious. I've had fenugreek and stuff that I've eaten before, at least according to recipes that I've read, but I've never cooked with it before, and it smells pretty awesome. And for this one, I am going to measure it out, partially because it's too full for me to shake it. I've got to say, the whole ordering process for Penzeys was pretty painless. I just went online and placed my order. They gave me a call the next day. They're like, "Hey, when do you want to come in to get this?" I was like, "When do you close?" I showed up a bit before that because I had to wait till after work. And yeah, it worked out pretty well. They gave me a whole bunch of pins and stuff as well, which was pretty sweet. So, if anyone needs spices, I could recommend going to Penzeys. Alright, and then a little bit of freshly ground pepper. There we go. And I think that should be pretty good for this. We're just gonna mix this all up. That smells pretty awesome. Honestly, all of this smells pretty awesome. Just bumping the heat on that a little bit more since it's taking a little bit of time to properly simmer. Let's see, what else? So So I was thinking about making an era, which is what is traditionally served with, but I do not have teff flour on hand. So that not really gonna work, unfortunately. Let's check the chicken. Chicken's looking pretty good. Probably another few minutes on that. So instead I'm going to be, I have rice here that I'll be using instead as my base. Thought about making naan. Never actually made naan before. It sounded like it would be something fun to make. I still will at some point, but it required some rising time. And by the time I really thought about it, it was too late for me to do that in time for tonight. So, sadly, I'm afraid that in terms of flatbreads, there is naan tonight. Not naan, the bread, just there's no flatbreads for this tonight. I could feel the groans from here. I think that this, I maybe should have done the garlic and the ginger first in the food processor. I'm gonna just quickly pull that out, cut it up a little bit because biting into that much ginger all at once is not necessarily going to be a good time. It might be, but it also might not be. Yeah, I found a recipe for it, and self-rising flour. I actually don't have self-rising flour. I just stick with all-purpose and occasionally a little bit of bread flour. I've been known to dabble with whole wheat flour as well. It's not difficult. It's just I didn't have enough time tonight. But it is on my list of things to try. So it will make an appearance here at some point, I can guarantee that. Fry it in oil. Oh, okay, I misread. I thought you were talking about naan specifically. Okay, so self-rising flour, baking powder, and salt. That makes sense, I suppose. And it takes 3 days to make? That's probably a little bit long for one of these streams. I mean, hey, I'm game if you guys are, but I feel like that might take a little while. You know, like 3 days while. Okay, needs to ferment. I had no idea. The things I learn. Like, apparently that you guys are interested in a 3-day long stream, so, you know, I'll have to keep that in mind next time I feel like staying up for 72 hours. I'm just completely bored and need something to do. I guess I could just leave the stream running overnight. I feel like I'd probably burn out my cameras, though. Like I've said before, I'm using some cell phones. Some old cell phones that I just had lying around. Because, I mean, come on, what do you do with a cell phone when you're done with it? You just toss it in the back of a drawer and leave it alone? Because that's what I do. But, yeah. So I just grabbed a couple of those, hung them up. They get pretty hot after a while. I don't know that they would survive 3 days of live streaming. I have to get like a bank of them and something to automatically switch between them during the night. Maybe automatically power them down and turn them back on. Could be a fun project. Man, this is really smelling great. I think we've got about another 5-ish minutes on these onions. They took a little while to start properly simmering. So I don't think that I'd call this golden yet. Maybe a pale yellow. It's definitely a richer color than it was when it went in. Just don't know that I would necessarily call it golden. After 48 hours awake, you start hallucinating. You know, I don't know that I've ever gone longer than about, I don't know, maybe 36 hours without sleeping. I'm one of these people that, like, if I don't get sleep, I get really cranky really fast. And then my body just starts shutting down at about 35 or 36 hours. Which coincidentally is about how long it takes to go through a full day and then another day of like class or work. Then you go home and you go straight to sleep. And then your sleep schedule's all messed up for, I don't know, about a week and a half. Seems to be how long it is for me most of the time. So I can't honestly imagine staying awake for longer than that. It's the sort of thing, I mean, I could probably do it if I really needed to, but that it doesn't sound fun. Yeah, see, 60 hours does not sound fun. 72 sounds not fun. Anything above, honestly, like 18 hours is, I mean, I could do around 20 hours. I really start getting tired, and that's where I would normally start falling asleep at. Yeah, too much more than that, and it just makes everything miserable. And then for me, my memory is the first thing to go. So, you know, after I've been up for too long, I can't remember. There's no point in my being up or doing anything because I can't recall anything anyway. I mean, what's the point of being awake if you aren't going to either remember it or do anything that's actually going to be any useful because you couldn't remember how to do, you know, words. Like I've done like class notes while on severe sleep deprivation, where severe is, you know, a night without sleep. And I mean, they're basically unreadable. Not quite as bad as the time that I went to class while thinking I wasn't that sick and I'd just taken like a Benadryl. I was like, because I thought it was mostly just congestion. I hadn't realized exactly how bad it was. And I somehow was writing in some other language. I don't know what that language was. It's probably not any sort of actual language on Earth, but I'm pretty certain that I tapped into, you know, some sort of alien script from across the galaxy. And yeah, I had to go back to the professor the next day or a couple days later and be like, look, I was there. You saw me there. These are my notes from that day. I can't read them. I don't know what they say. That's probably the worst I've been. And that was probably a combination of some sleep deprivation because, you know, when you're sick, it's not fun to fall asleep. Yeah, insomnia is not fun. I get occasional, like, flashes of insomnia, but usually I'm still able to sort of sleep for at least enough to reset my clock. For those who can't do that or whose bodies don't work that way, like that, my heart really goes out to you because That sounds pretty horrible. But yeah, normally my insomnia is I woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't fall back to sleep for hours or something like that. Which, hey, I mean, I guess that's good for me, but... really sucks for everyone else. Alright, this has been here for about 20 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and add the spices here. Oh man, that smells really good when it gets added into the mixture here. It hits the heat and starts to warm up. That smells fantastic. Alright, let's see here. Cook for a few minutes. Taste the sauce. If you prefer more bite, add more chili. Ooh, I can make this thing spicier. Yeah, I can see that being stressed would really make that worse. My heart goes out to you, really. That does not sound like a fun time at all. Seriously, this smells so good. Oh, hey, my hand's actually kind of been in the steam over here. So, I was just kind of smelling it. It smells like all of the spices and everything that I just put in. The steam has gotten on my hand has made my hand smell like that too, which is pretty awesome. I think that this is probably getting pretty close to tasting time. See, I'm perfectly fine with my house smelling delicious for days. Mm. Okay, actually, that's got a pretty good bite to it already. It's gonna clear out my sinuses. Although I'll be honest, my allergies have been trying to do that already. Yeah, that's really good. Oof. That's really good. Alright, let's see here. Add the chicken and simmer covered for about 15 more minutes. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab that chicken. Oh boy, that's very steamy in there. I should have probably realized that before sticking my head in the face of the steam. Or my face in the way of the steam. Turn that off. And because I'm not quite foolish enough to pick this up with my bare hands, it is time for my favorite tongs to come into play. We're just gonna kind of nestle this chicken into here. Making sure we include these little bits that look delicious as well. And I'm going to put the rack back into the oven for now, which I've already turned off, so it'll just slowly cool down. Which is perfectly fine by me. Alright, let's see here. Add the chicken, simmer covered. So we're going to make sure the chicken kind of gets nestled in here appropriately. All these spicy, delicious stuff. Just going to make sure that it gets kind of on top, almost like a marinade. All right. Now I'm going to grab some water, just a little bit. The instructions say I can use up to a cup, and I'm not going to use a cup. I'm going to use less than that. At least to start. I just want to make sure there's going to be plenty of steam. I'm going to go ahead and cover this. That should make sure that everything inside gets nice and steamed up with that delicious, delicious flavor. Alright, and while that does that, because we're going to need to go, it's going to simmer here for about another 15 minutes. Let me set a timer for that. Timer. I'll use that special stream timer that I have. I'm going to set this to 14 minutes and say 30 seconds. Alrighty. And let's throw that up on the screen. Alright, so now you know how much time is remaining. And hopefully I can keep track of that too. And I'm just gonna kind of clean some stuff up here. Probably not a whole lot else interesting gonna happen for the next few minutes at least. I mean, other than me talking over and over again about how delicious everything smells. Because, well, frankly, everything smells pretty freaking delicious. But I'm just going to kind of clean up and talk about nothing in particular. Of course, one of the problems with talking about nothing in particular is that you have to think of nothing in particular to talk about. I suspect that this is why so many cooking shows do their, do all of their cooking, the actual, cooking time, either in montage or in a time lapse or something like that. But no, here on whatever I called this, Ryan Cooks, I think. Here on Ryan Cooks, you get to have the full, unfiltered experience of cooking, which means you also have to wait with me. So I used just paprika. I didn't use smoked paprika. I could actually probably add a little bit more, to be perfectly honest, because I like paprika. Nah, that's okay. I'll do that next time, depending on how this turns out. But yeah, smoked paprika would probably be a pretty solid addition. because it's also pretty delicious. But regular paprika is also pretty good. I can't really comment too much on the taste because I haven't tasted this yet. So hopefully soon. Just another 11 minutes to go. So is anyone making anything delicious lately? Let's turn this into the ask questions while not looking at the chat and knowing that you have 25 seconds of latency to fill before the first message would come through anyway. Moment. It's always a fun moment. But yeah, has anyone made anything delicious lately, or just new, or particularly interesting, or anything like that? Because I've been trying a bunch of new stuff, obviously. I mean, I'm making something completely new today. But I did buffalo nachos the other day, which were based on the nachos that I did a couple weeks ago on the stream. But instead of the... I had tossed the chicken in buffalo sauce before the bake. And I upped the amount of pepper jack that I used as cheese. Orange chicken. That sounds pretty good. I've never actually made orange chicken. It's one of those things that I haven't done a lot of fried foods. It just never quite got around to it. So orange chicken is one of those things that I need to make. I just need to figure out a better solution for frying stuff. Because trying to deal with all the oil and everything is just annoying. I feel like it would probably be a little bit better if I wasn't in an apartment, but since I'm in an apartment, I'm pretty space limited here, so I don't have a whole lot of storage room for stuff like fry oil, or ideally a fryer, although honestly there's a multitude of things you could put in your house. Korean inspired beef and vegetables over rice, that sounds amazing. Honestly, anything over rice is pretty good in my book. I'm a pretty big fan of things over rice. There's just something about having that background that lets flavors sort of pop out if you get them right. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. On the other hand, maybe it's not, because various things over rice is one of the is an incredibly popular category of food. So can't just be me. I think it's one of those things that lets you have something tasty on top of something filling. Yeah, I could see it being a lot of work to do the orange chicken. That's kind of how I feel about fried stuff, just kind of in general. Like that, I was told by my girlfriend that my fried chicken and onion rings were the best that she's ever had, which is pretty high praise. I think she's mostly just being polite, but it's the sort of thing I can't do a lot unless I'm really going to commit to doing it a lot. It's hard to do that just occasionally. If that makes sense. Let's see here. How's this doing? Got another 6 minutes-ish? 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Kind of want to look and see how it's doing. Try to get it to the consistency of a thick sauce. So I feel like I can check it in order to see if it needs more water to get to a consistency of a thick sauce. I think it probably needs a little bit more water. Yeah, so that's essentially what I did on the stream a few weeks ago. I have an uncoated Dutch oven in addition to my coated Dutch oven, and I used the uncoated one along with a couple quarts of canola oil. Yeah, so like the oil itself is not the big deal. I can get oil pretty easily. And I've got all the equipment to work with it. Although I do actually need a higher temperature thermometer because the one that I got for the purpose ended up not really working out. It kind of cut out about 50 degrees lower than where I needed it to be. So that was kind of annoying. But I mean, other than that, it worked out pretty well. Yeah, it's the whole storage and dealing with oil and stuff afterwards that's annoying. It's not a showstopper, but it means that I'm not going to be frying stuff up regularly. Any frying will be more strictly limited. Because you got to deal with the oil afterwards. And I don't know about where anyone else is, but where I am, I mean, if I'm going to recycle my oil, because I'm not going to get rid of it improperly, but the closest place that I could find that actually will get rid of it for you is they're 30 miles away, and I have to pay them, which for the amount that I have would only be about $1.50, so that's not a big deal, but it increases the barrier. Yeah, it's just it's a barrier in the way of doing it more regularly. Which, I mean, probably keeps me a little bit healthier because honestly, fried stuff is delicious, and I would fry everything if it was practical. Which I don't think would be very good for me long term. But yeah, some of these barriers are there to prevent us from overindulging. Oh, I could hard boil some eggs with this. Well, that's a good way to kill a couple minutes. So, the way I hard boil eggs is actually pretty simple. Let's see here. What's the best way to show this off? Because that camera is pointing in that direction. So, let's move this. So for those who are unfamiliar with... Whoops. Alright, what did I catch? Oh, I caught my immersion blender. Didn't realize that cord was there. Alright. So... Man, I really need to add a extension cord up there. Actually, hold on. I've got a couple seconds here. I'll talk about the wonders of the Instant Pot for a minute while I grab an extension cord. So basically, the Instant Pot is pure magic, and it makes all cooking, well, okay, at least all the cooking that it's good for, and that it is actually useful for, it makes it all way, 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 way easier. Really cannot highly recommend an Instant Pot quite enough. I mean, I guess I probably could if I really wanted to, but that would be difficult, and it would require a lot of work. So instead, I'm just going to say that the Instant Pot is magic, and kind of leave it at that. So it's a pressure cooker, so for those who have never seen an ad for it or had other people rave about it, it's a pressure cooker that can do a bunch of other stuff, which, to be perfectly honest, I think most pressure cookers could as well, but it's the one that has the brand recognition, and they've got a menu on the front that make it really simple, super simple. So there's kind of that. They definitely have the whole easiness bit down. Let's see, extension cord with a very short extension lead. Really, that's not helpful. Who needs an extension cord that only has like 1.5 feet of actual lead? That doesn't make any sense. Like, if I need an extension cord, I usually need like an extension cord, right, to really extend out. Thought I had another extension cord around, but maybe not. I guarantee that if I give up now and I stop looking for an extension cord, the next week I'm going to be looking around for something completely different, and there will be an extension cord right where I was looking before. Because this is how the world works. And anytime you actually need something, whatever it is that you were looking for cannot be found. So bear with me for just a second while I talk about... Oops, the timer has ended. Probably a good thing I glanced up at the screen right when I did. I'll go back in there again in just a sec. I just feel like if I just keep looking for another 30 seconds... Nope. Okay, well, guess not. Okay, so back to this. Oof, that's a nice amount of steam. Oh man, that smells so good. Yeah, it's burned a little bit over here. Not really a big deal. I blame the electric coils. They don't heat as evenly as gas would. Alright, well, I will put off the hard-boiled eggs and my pitch about the Instant Pot. Let's turn that down to low just to keep it low. Well, unless I can fit the Instant Pot right here. Alright, it's not quite over. I'm going to spend another couple seconds trying to show how to make hard-boiled eggs with an Instant Pot. Now the only issue is trying to get this thing to plug in, because it does have a very short power cord. I used to think that the power cord on my mixer was really short. Turns out it's actually not that bad compared to the Instant Pot power cord. It's not normally a big deal. I just leave the Instant Pot over in its corner. But every now and then it's kind of annoying. Okay, there we go. Got it plugged in. I only slightly unplugged other stuff to do it as well. Cool. So, nice. A bit of fond is always delicious and good. Let's see, cutting board and stove view. Transition. All right. So, this is my Instant Pot. It's pretty awesome. Probably need to wipe it down, but it is pretty great. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab just a couple of eggs. Eggs is precious. Eggs is... And I've got 3 left in this pack, so that's how many we're going to do. So I'm just nestling those in. Trying to show it off. So I've got the trivet in there. I actually had that in there already because I made egg salad last night. Okay, that's probably fine. So I made egg salad last night, which means that there's already a trivet and already some water in there. We're going to add a little bit of extra water. Usually, you need at least a cup to run the Instant Pot. I've got a little bit more in there than that. I've got about 2 cups in there right now. And so, you just pop the lid on. I have this thing set to 6 minutes, and there's not really a good way to dynamically show that. I guess I'll just go back to the previous view and adjust it all again, because I am incapable of just leaving things as they are. Alright, so 6 minutes. I'm going to set it to high pressure, no delay, and I'm going to turn off the keep warm. You just hit start, and it'll come up to pressure. It's going to take it a minute or two to do that, and then once it has, it'll spend 6 minutes actually cooking. So all in all, this usually takes about 12 minutes. So probably won't be done by the time I've plated everything and all of that. But it's a good. It'll be good for me to have in a few minutes. And the hard-boiled eggs that it makes are just basically perfect. At 6 minutes of high pressure, it's the eggs. The yolks are really bright, vibrant yellow. And are basically the way that I like them the best, which is hard-boiled, but not to the point where everything is rubbery. Alright, speaking of plating up, I'm going to go ahead and grab some rice here from off camera. We're going back to the theater of the mind. I'm going to grab a healthy amount of rice, which is 2 or 3 scoops. Maybe 3.5 scoops. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to swap this over here to show off the plating process. I've got my rice, and we're going to grab some of the chicken. Ooh, that is nice and steamy. Still simmering just a little bit. Grab this piece over here. Just lay that on top. I think I could probably add a little bit more water to this to make a thick sauce. It's a little bit thicker than most sauces right now. Just gonna pour it in over here where it's hot. Kind of mix this in. Yeah, that's more like a thick sauce. Maybe a little bit over here. But again, not that much because we're not trying to make it all liquidy. I'm just trying to make it more of a sauce than what it was before, which was, I don't know, something thicker than a sauce. I think of sauces as flowing a little bit. I think that this will be pretty good. Still pretty thick. It's not quite to the same degree. Go ahead and just make sure that is covering everything. And the rice will balance that out pretty nicely. I'm going to cover this to keep it nice and warm. And we will go back over here. Yeah, a little bit of paste. We don't really want it to be a paste. We want it to be more of a sauce. And that's looking pretty good to me. And let's see. Fork, fork, fork. Man, it's probably a little bit difficult to tell from the way the camera is set up right now, but there's just this nice amount of steam rising off of it, which is not something that I don't think would ever really show up on the camera, but it going past the wood just looks great. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. I know this is traditionally a finger food, but I'm not very good with finger foods, so I'm going to go ahead and grab. It smells fantastic. Go ahead and cut up a little bit here. That chicken is so nice and tender. It's just falling apart. Probably could have just done this all with just my fork, to be honest. Not really even cutting everything. It's just falling apart into pieces. Try to make sure I get something that's got a little bit of everything. Alright, let's give this a shot. Still nice and hot. Yep, that's really good. I'm thinking a little bit more salt on top. That's got a nice amount of spice to it. Yeah, that's got a nice kick. And the flavors that come through behind it are just really, really good. Just going to get this salt fully incorporated in. If you're hearing a hissing sound, that's my Instant Pot nearly at pressure. It'll cut off in a second. Yep. That is delicious. Take a little bit more pepper on top. Just trying to balance out that whole flavor profile. Yep, I think that's done it. Well, this was a fantastic suggestion. I'm really happy that it was suggested to me, and then I made it. Because this is pretty great. I'm gonna probably give this another minute or two to finish cooling down a little bit. It's still pretty warm. And then by then I should have the hard-boiled eggs set up, and I'll post a picture of this out on my Discord and up on Twitter. And yeah, this is pretty good. So I'm gonna sign off here so that I can go and enjoy eating this. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. And I'll catch you guys next time. If you guys have any more suggestions, I think I've shown that I've quite enjoyed the ones that I've had so far. So keep them coming. All right. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys later.